Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Coming Out Stories from India series. Coming out, what is it? Coming out is a term used primarily in the LGBT community when a queer person shares about their sexual orientation, usually with friends and family. Nicola and I decided to launch these Coming Out Stories from India to ensure we all work together in changing the narrative. The last few years, since my own coming out, I have been looking for role models, stories that can help me in my own journey. No, there were hardly any, if at all, not in depth enough. So, what was common to most is the challenges that most have faced. But we also discovered that not all stories are that of pain, suffering, and trauma either. This is when the coming out stories from India started taking shape in our minds to bring to our audience real people with their real stories, keeping in mind the complexities of India, though. Hopefully, these coming out stories can help pave the way for those who are in any phase of their coming out journey. I'm Raga Olga de Silva, or Totally Out Now, as you know me. Now, today's guest has an interesting journey. He came out to his parents much later in life. He has been with his long term partner, living freely, and it made me think, was it always like this for him? He also works and represents corporate India for us and is the People and Culture Director for a leading international gaming organization. So, what does he do with this organization? How does he help bring about change in the industry for our community, the LGBT community? Please join me in welcoming Rajiv Sharma.
Hi, Raga.
Hey, Rajiv, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
All well, thank you. And where are you right now?
I'm in Noida, India.
Okay, and is that where you grew up?
Yes, I grew up in India. I grew up in Delhi, born, brought up in Delhi. Have studied here in Delhi, but have worked across the world. Yeah, that's how I've moved around.
India is in your heart, isn't it? So no matter where
Yes,
in the
yes.
world, yeah,
India is home. India is home.
India is home. Fantastic. So Rajiv, I want to know. So Rajiv Sharma, where does the family come from?
We actually hail from Pakistan, undivided India. My parents migrated after the partition. My father met my mother, obviously. They had a love marriage. They had a little bit of a love marriage, but, and then they made their house. They both were working, which also gave a lot of openness at our home. My mom was working. She was financially independent. We're a family of, we have three sons for my parents. I'm the youngest in the family. So you can very well imagine there were four. There was two of my brothers and my father who are the father figures for me, if you will. And then yeah, that's a little bit about my family.
Fantastic. You made a reference to love marriage. And so I'm
Hmm.
very keen for our audience who are out of, from out of India to understand what is this concept of love marriage that we talk about.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. In India, still, majority of the marriages happen when parents select, a partner or a companion for their children. They either advertise in the newspapers, or their family relatives, or still there are priests that recommend families of known people, and that's how they get into an alliance. Love marriages earlier was not considered right, morally right. How could you select a partner of your own choice? And right, I'm just talking about heterosexual partners. I'm not talking about same-sex relationships at all. So how could you? It is still in certain villages and in certain sections of society. It's considered as bringing disgrace to the family.
How interesting, right? So we're talking about a culture that we've both been brought up around,
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
where there is love marriage and then there is arranged marriages. And
Yes.
arranged marriages, as we know, the balance is like this, right? So arranged marriage here
Yeah.
on top and the love marriages. And in
Yeah.
arranged marriage,
I think it's only now in urban India you hear live-in relationships and love marriages, but majority I would say still have arranged marriages.
so correct.
A person chosen by your parents or elderly of the family.
So this is interesting for me, Rajiv, and that's why I'm picking out on this, because you're talking about traditional, conventional marriages where two families
Yeah.
get together. It's not about two people only, right? It's about two families coming together and forming a union. And
Yeah.
therefore, the union is not just based on the person, it's based on caste, sometimes religion, and so many other factors, right? In
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're talking about a culture that we've been brought up, and then what was it like for you growing up as who you are in that environment?
It was difficult. It was difficult. It was challenging at times. I was talking to somebody else during the day, and I was just telling her that imagine you were wearing one shoe size smaller, and wearing that day in day out. And a part of your brain is distracted because it's causing you a pinch. It was similar for me as well. It was exactly similar for me because uh, the access to information when I grew up wasn't free. It wasn't available. There was no Google. There were a few libraries in and around where I grew up, but I didn't even know, what reference material to look for. There weren't any role models that you could look up to. I think the only role model I remember at that point in time was Sylvie, the hairdresser, because she underwent a sex change operation, as it was called at that point in time. And obviously, I didn't have the courage to approach her. I didn't. And sometimes it was really difficult, really finding out, is this something wrong within me? Why am I, why when I would see my brothers playing cricket and I had absolutely no interest in cricket. I had lots of friends who were girls, and my mother thought it was affiliation of a romantic nature. That's how they were a little surprised when I actually came out. But you always had girlfriends. I was like, yeah, they were friends who were girls, but they were not girlfriends.
Hmm.
So it was difficult. Schooling, especially my school life, wasn't easy. I was called names in school. I was shamed, and sometimes obviously made fun of. But and at that point in time, you don't even know what's your fault. Why are
Okay.
you being the butt of everybody's joke?
So Rajiv, I want to understand why were they singling you out and why were they poking fun at you at school?
Well, I think it was a variety of things. As if I look back, it was my effeminate ways, maybe. It was the way I carried myself. It was the way I spoke to a few people. It was also their upbringing. It was also they hadn't normalized. For them, it was all school boys playing cricket, hanging around with guys, making fun of girls, or I'll not say making fun of girls was, that sounds stereotypical, but yeah, let's say hanging around with girls for a romantic affiliation. As it happens as we are growing up. For me, it wasn't that. I would rather look up to boys for a romantic affiliation. And I remember it in class 10th. I did express my love to a colleague, a batchmate of mine. He didn't make fun of this at all. He understood. He was very mature about this particular thing. Somebody else got to know, and that's how it spread out in the school, and I was made fun of. I've had a couple of afternoons and nights. I just cried to sleep. I didn't know who to look up to. I didn't know who to confide in. And maybe at some point in time, I thought this is life. This is what is going to happen to me. So yeah, that was life for me.
That's interesting. So when you were much younger, I'm talking about your school days, and you're going through this stage of being ridiculed, right? I mean, we don't
Yeah,
understand, and when we are kids, we don't even really understand that there's
yeah.
something, whether it's right or wrong with us. We just kind of have a lot of self doubts. So, did you at any point feel that there was something not normal? Did you feel that you were different, and did you try to fit into the normality of what we think is normal?
So in very interesting question, Raga. The reason why I say that is, there were many days when I would wake up and say I would try to fit in. I distinctly remember one afternoon around Diwali when I said I would try to fit in and I would play cricket today. I played cricket that day, but it drained me out. It drained me out because I wasn't made out for cricket at all, playing cricket at all. I was far more, I was more inclined towards creativity, book reading, drawing, dancing, but I wasn't made out for cricket at all. Uh, I tried to fit in. I tried to fit in, but somehow every now and then I realized that I wasn't what people were expecting me to be. I also clearly remember at some, when I was in class fifth or sixth, my brother actually, he said something like, "Hey, you need to speak properly," because I had this effeminate voice. Until about recently, I would actually clear up my throat before making a presentation to our leadership team. And I realized it very recently that, hey, what's wrong? I think this is the way I should speak and this is how I am. But I can clearly remember that a small thing, which obviously he did unintentionally, which had no baggage associated with it, but I carried it too far. That is the impressionable age. That was my impressionable age, and that's how we all kids, all human beings carry it that far. It was a small comment made. Ultimately, I think, like I've shared before with many others, all everyone's looking for is acceptance. You
Correct.
know, each one of us is looking for acceptance, wants to fit in. So I tried fitting in with even my school crowds. I would hang around with this bunch of boys, but I realized that I wasn't fitting in. I luckily, fortunately, I had a few friends who understood me, who accepted me for who I am, and they would say, why do you go and hang around with them? We're there for you. Just be with us.
How
You know.
beautiful. How beautiful is that?
Uh, and
So,
and some of them have been my best friends till date, and I really thank them for being there for me, because I realize that there are not many people who understand you and accept you for who you are.
I always say, just one person is enough. You don't need the
Exactly.
whole world, because the whole world can go against you, but just that one person can have
Yeah.
such an impact, and both ways, right? Negative
Exactly.
and positive. One
Positive.
person
Yes.
also. So, and wonderful. I just want to keep taking you back into your childhood because, like you said, that's a very impressionable age, and we carry that for the rest of our lives until we unlearn what we have learned, right? Which you,
Yeah.
in your case, only very lately you discovered that whatever your brother said was having an impact on you. Now, was there pressure from you, from your brothers, as you were growing up, at school and at home, to behave in a certain manner? Because obviously,
Mhm.
whenever anybody, I mean, I've had an older sibling at school as well, so the conversations don't just stick to that moment, they stick to your siblings as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fortunately, my brothers and I studied in separate schools. We have a very big age gap. We have about 7 and 6 years age gap. So by the time I was getting into class eighth, ninth, they were kind of graduating. I did have a little bit of an unsaid pressure at home. My brothers would complain to mom, "Isko bolo ye kapde nahi, and isko bolo wo nahi." Uh, but they weren't very strict about it. You know, Somehow by the time I was entering my college, my brothers had migrated outside India. They had already left India, and I was the only child for left with my mother, my mother, my father, and my grandmother. My mother was very independent. She had a point of view, and she knew what her point of view was, and she was very independent. I think the fact that I'm here today, the fact that I'm speaking to you, the fact whatever I am today is because a lot of confidence that she made sure that I carry forward. I have from her. She always believed in all her children. Even when I came out, I remember she said, "Thanks for sharing." She said that you will still remain my son. You know, Nothing's going to change. Um, I don't remember. My biggest fear when I came out as well was, what if I'm asked to go away from my home? I didn't have a partner then. Monish wasn't there with me at that point in time. I was alone. I was single. I was like many gay men trying to kiss in a thousand frogs to find out who is my Prince Charming. But then that was my biggest fear. What if my parents leave me? Who will I? Who? And it was not financially that I was dependent on them, but I was emotionally dependent on them.
Sure.
But they stood by me. There were times when they would make comments that would sound stupid, but never with a bad intention. Never did I hear any one of them say, "ये तुमने क्या किया?" या "हमने कुछ पाप किया होगा." Like you hear it with
Sure.
lots
Sure.
of others. I never heard that at all.
Wonderful. I'm going to come to that part as well, but I'm just going to stay in that little childhood phase. Okay, you
Yes.
made you made a comment about your brother saying that ye kya kapde. Kapde, for
Hmm.
those who don't understand, are clothes. So
Clothes, yes.
obviously, at a very young age, you had decided, or you had a preference for different clothes, right? Like, I mean, we know typically how a male child dresses up. So you
Yeah.
obviously have an affinity for something else. So can you describe that and who bought those
Yeah,
clothes for
sure.
you?
Yeah, so it was not only clothes, it was also my choice of toys. I would rather buy dolls for myself, or I would rather coax my mother to get me a doll, whereas my brothers would say, "Hey, let's get you a gun, or let's get you a bus, or let's get you a train." And I had a doll house, at that point in time. When it came to clothes, it was primarily choice of color. I didn't like the blues and the grays. I liked the pinks and the reds and the yellows and the greens. My mom was pretty okay with getting me anything and everything what I liked. I had a sense of fashion that maybe somebody, it was contradictory to my family's way of how I should dress up. I don't remember any big fiasco happening, but I do remember that I was definitely there was a comment here and there saying, why don't you wear a shirt and a trouser and a necktie, whereas I would prefer a sherwani or a kurta pajama and a traditional wear. In my brother's marriage, I got the angarkha with the stoles, and the stoles was my way of my way of coming out, of
Mm.
flaunting the chunnery, if you will. So yeah, that was my way of sharing who I was. Till then, I hadn't come out to my family at all, like I shared with you. But yeah, that's how childhood was for me.
So did your mother or did your parents or your extended family at any point recognize that you were, possibly probably inclined, towards a
Yeah.
same gender? And did they make comments about it? Did they expect you to convert? Did they do anything
No,
to convert?
no, not at all, not at all. Yes, there were a few comments made that I would hang around with a few cousins of mine who were girls. I was best friends with them. They would say, "Hey, we know they are like thick and thin. They would just hang around together. He's effeminate." But those were comments, and they would tell my mom that you wanted, you had two sons and you wanted a daughter, so maybe he's daughter to you. I don't know whether it was done, whether the comment was made with any bad intention, but it was a comment that was made, and my mom would laugh it off, and fortunately, I was good in studies, so that compensated. Or at least my parents had didn't think too much. I was otherwise a very obedient child, very good in studies, very disciplined. So from that perspective, my parents were off my back, if you will.
Okay, so when did you recognize and accept it for yourself, your sexual orientation?
I think I fully accepted it when I was in my first year college. They were on and off feelings that emerged. Like I said, I shared this in class 10th with someone, but it was in college that I came to terms with my sexuality. I came to terms with the fact that, hey, this is who I am, and I get attracted towards guys, and it's not that guys don't get attracted towards me. There were guys who would get attracted towards me as well. So yeah, it was primarily in college that I understood that, hey, this is my way of life, and this is what my way of life will be. I was still struggling with the fact, though, whether I will come out to my family, whether this will be my way of being. I was still contemplating, still thinking that yes, I will try and push marriage, the thought of marriage or the idea of marriage as far as possible. But if push comes to shove, I may have to get married. That the thought of staying single with a guy hadn't crossed my mind because I wasn't really sure. There weren't enough role models available, and I didn't even know whether my parents would accept me. I think that was the biggest fear.
Yeah, and we're talking about it at a time, right, when, like you
Yeah,
said, there wasn't much awareness. I mean,
yeah, early 90s,
yeah, exactly.
late 90s.
So, I mean, this is a conversation that we've had with many others as well, in terms of when there's no awareness, you've kind of reached a point where you're aware of yourself. You know that you have a certain preference, right? But others don't know. So you get involved in a relationship. How can you be assured that that person is going to be, equal or partnering with you? That's a huge
Yeah,
risk to
yeah,
take, right, for our
yeah.
community. So how did you manage
Interesting.
that? How did you manage
You
that?
you you brought that out. In college, I had a relationship. Monish and my relationship was not the first relationship. I had a first relationship with someone else, and it continued for about 6, 7 years. And I had thought I'd found my Prince Charming. We were intellectually compatible as well. However, he was the only son of his family, and he belonged to a pretty rich family. It was expected of him to give a legal heir to his family, and he decided to get married. And when we kind of broke off, the comments still are fresh in my ears. He said, "Well, actually, I wasn't. I just got. I'm not. I'm straight, or I've always been straight. I tried this because of you, because I wanted to make you happy." And that was a little bit of a shock for me because I was like, okay, I mean, I'm flattered that you tried this for my happiness, but why did you promise me things which you could have very well said that, hey, this is not me. You could have come out straight saying I am straight. And our relationship had some really good memories. We took a vacation together in college, if you can imagine at that time, our parents sending just the two of us for a vacation. Uh, you know, uh, so we had some good times, but I clearly remember that relationship left me with a very bad taste, and it took me a couple of years to really come to terms with the fact that there are men out there who are interested beyond just the physical intimacy.
Sure, because even today, we talk about 2021, right? It's very
Yeah,
difficult to find partners of the same gender. I mean, where do you find there is hardly any dating apps or dating spaces? You can't just go to somebody and say, "Oh, I think you're straight. I'm attracted to you," or I'm attracted to
okay,
you, but
yeah,
let's you're gay. So we're talking about a time when this was even this level of awareness and this level of space was not available to us, right? So
yeah.
in that, how did you meet? How did you start meeting people? What was the scene like in Noida, in Delhi?
Okay, well, sure. There were a few dating hangout places that were known uh, for gay hangouts. There were a few parks that were known. There was this Yahoo room. I think I don't remember the room number, but Yahoo room number 7 or something, where you would find people with the same orientation hanging around. You would meet people through friends, and that's how you would meet. There were a few. There used to be a pub which every Tuesday night became a gay pub. It's in Chanakyapuri, south of Delhi. I think it was called Pegs and Pines. So those were very few places. The others were just through eye contact. Sometimes you would try out to realize that you tried on the wrong person, or somebody else would try out on you, and you'll say, "Oh, we fortunately met." But a lot of it, Raga, at that point in time was only looking for physical intimacy. There were very little conversations about staying together. The real first person that I met who wanted to stay together was another friend of mine. Uh, he came from Dubai. He was in cabin crew for Air Qatar. Unfortunately, he's no more. God bless his soul. But he was the one. He gave me the confidence to come out to my family. He did tell, he was out to his family, and he said, "You will be playing with a lot of life. You'll be playing with your own life. You'll be playing with the girl's life, family's life. So just think about it. There is a way of just of being gay and being out to your family. And if it means being single, it means being single. That's about it." Yeah.
So, in the gay community, especially with men, I've heard these stories quite a bit of the 90s in particular, where men would obviously have a physical intimacy and night with the partner, and then there were many occasions of aggression. Like there are instances someone shared with us the other day that in the morning you would wake up, somebody would take your VCR from the house and go away with it,
Mm,
and or give you a punch in the face and walk out, or even take
mm,
your scooter keys or whatever you had at that time, and there was nothing you could do because there was no law against it. So it became a
yeah.
community which was very scared all the time and fearful, yet
Yeah.
you cruised.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, fortunately, I haven't faced this personally, but I know of friends who faced this personally. They were either hit or money was flicked from their wallets. or they were threatened that they'll be outed to the families, because ultimately everyone at that point in time was doing it under the covers, right? There were a few, especially even now there are many married men who claim to be bisexual, but we all know they got married because of the family pressure. A few of my friends who married have faced that kind of physical torture, emotional torture, financial torture at the hands of other men. And there are lots of straight men who come into this considering this is, to get into the physical intimacy to earn money, and because they know that there is no recourse available. Even, now people are waking up to going to the police, but at least a few years back, there was this shame of your own sexuality, and then the shame of, hey, I was sleeping with someone else, and by the way, it was only in 2018 that homosexuality was decriminalized. Prior to that, okay, you had sex, you are also a criminal. So yeah, there have been instances, and they've had it with a few of my close friends. Fortunately, I was spared.
I'm glad. I'm so glad to hear that you
Yeah,
were spared. But I've had many people we've been having conversations with, and it's quite painful to hear that it's
it's
happened.
quite painful because obviously there is a financial dent, there is a physical dent, but more importantly, it's the emotional dent that you live with, for lots of time, for lots of years, and it's very difficult to overcome that.
Have you ever been stopped by a cop and given the danda? Rajiv is frozen. I think internet issues. We'll keep continuing.
Yeah,
I'll keep talking. Rajiv, you're frozen. If you can hear me,
can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah. So
Yeah, I've not been stopped by a cop
sorry.
ever.
So I'm just going to
For
repeat that. Okay. I'm going to repeat that so Rajiv, have you ever been stopped by a cop and shown the danda?
No, I've never been stopped by a cop at all. Yes, there have been a few snide remarks made on the road by passers-by. Look how is he walking? He walks effeminately. He has effeminisms. Um, but never have I been stopped by the cop.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So over that time when you were growing up in college, you had started having intimate relationships with other men. Was your environment at home all right for you to? Did you feel safe to sit with your parents and maybe have a conversation about how you were feeling?
Well, actually, I think while my parents were very open, but we never had a chance of talking about sex and intimacy with my parents. Um, it was never encouraged. We had a lot of public display of affection. My father would hug me, my mom would hug me, but never had I heard my brothers discussing it with my parents. So obviously it was considered, I rationalized it and I was conditioned to say, hey, this is not a topic that you discuss it at home. I did tell I could get both sets of friends home. I could get my girlfriends at home. I could also get my boyfriends at home. And we could study together for late nights independently. Nobody would checking on us at all. But never did we discuss physical intimacy or sexuality at home ever till the age of 29.
Wow. So interesting because when I asked you this question, your response to me was that we didn't discuss sex and intimacy at home, right?
Yeah, we didn't.
At that time, you didn't talk about sexuality. You said sex and intimacy. And
Yeah, we.
I find it interesting because a lot of the queer people, and when they have to come out to their parents, they worry because sexual orientation or sexuality is seen so much about sex and so much
Yeah,
about physical intimacy. Then
because it begins with that. No, it begins with preferences of sex. So it begins with that, and if you've not spoken about that at home, you definitely feel, how do I approach this topic? Is this a little bit of a taboo topic at home? So yeah, you're right.
so at home, were there any conversations? Because we're talking about a time when there's no awareness. There's maybe a Bollywood film here and there. And that
Yeah.
Bollywood, yeah. So did you, when you watched a Bollywood film together as a family, did your family make any comments, let's say?
No, no. Now that you talk about it, now that you asked me this question, I remember, my brothers were out. They were staying abroad, and my father, in my bookshelf, got a copy of Kama Sutra. It was bought together by my then boyfriend and me, and he written from me to you. Um, and he and I was staying at my. I'd gone for my. It was summer vacations, and I'd gone to my aunt's place, and he called up my aunt and said, "Hey, can you send Rajiv back?" When I came back home, the book was there on the table, but there was a silent treatment about this entire thing. There was no confrontation whatsoever that why did I find this book. There was silent treatment. My mom did say, so this is what you're reading these days. So I said, well, you should be happy, I'm just learning more about things. And she looked at me and then just kept quiet. And then there was this little bit of a silent treatment, if you will, call it like that. But there was never openness about this particular topic. I could discuss anything and everything with her till I came out. But this topic, I don't think was ever encouraged by them.
I just find it fascinating how our lives are so much in parallel, right? So when did you finally meet Monish? And
Yeah,
I'm making an assumption that it is after meeting Monish you came out to your
no,
family. Oh no, I'm making an
no.
assumption. Okay.
Yeah, so till then I had been staying with my parents, and it was in the year 2005. I found a job with Dell Chandigarh, and I had to move out of Delhi, and I had to go and pick up this job in north of India. And that was the time when I was above 28, 29, nearing that 30s, and there was a lot of family pressure. When I say family pressure, yes, from my parents, but there was also a lot of family pressure from the extended family to my mother and my father that, hey, why don't you get married? Here are a few matches that we have. Does he know anyone? Even if he knows anyone, you should be comfortable, because my brothers, my middle brother, the one who's immediately elder to me, had a love marriage. So they were pretty open with the concept of love marriage. My mother asked me multiple times, "Do you know someone? Do you want to get married to somebody who you know?" We were open. And it was, I clearly remember I had to leave in the afternoon. And in the morning, my mother approached the topic once again. And she had a few pictures with her, and she kind of uh, passed on the pictures to me and said, "Hey, look." I looked, by that time, I felt it. I felt that anyways I was going out. Maybe this was the perfect moment to really come out. However, I remember I choked up multiple times when I came out. Uh, I I only kept crying and saying, "I love you, mom. I love you, dad. I know it may be causing you hurt, but I am not attracted towards girls."
Wow. And how was the reaction?
My mom cried. My mom cried. My dad was there with her. He had his hand on her shoulder, and then he went to the other room and just kept quiet. My mom kept on crying, and then by that time, she said, "Okay, we'll talk about it. I'm sure." She did say that, "I'm sure there is a cure for it. This is a passing phase. There is a cure for it." And then I said, "Okay, I have to leave."
Hmm.
And she said, "Okay, sure, leave." And they were supposed to come to me after about 2 weeks, because my father had planned his cataract in Chandigarh, and he thought they would stay with me. And Chandigarh is not very far from Delhi. It's just about a 4.5 hours drive. I reached Chandigarh by evening. The next day morning, I get a call from my mother saying, "Hey, we are coming tomorrow. We don't want to leave you alone. We are coming tomorrow. Don't worry, whatever you've shared, it's with us. We'll talk about it when we come there." Uh, for at least 24 hours, there was a lot of burden on me that maybe this was it. I'll never get to see them again. Uh, and maybe they will just come back and say, "We don't need you anymore in our lives." And maybe my brothers would kind of say, "Hey, you're out of the family. You've disgraced the family." But it wasn't meant to be. My both my parents turned up on this Tuesday morning to Chandigarh. We hugged each other. They stayed with me for over 6 to 7 weeks. In those 6 to 7 weeks, we talked about this aspect multiple times. So she asked me, when did you know? Were there people in your life? She did say that maybe you can get married to a girl who's, not she didn't know gay lesbian terminology at all, but she said that there are women who may not want physical intimacy. And I said, well, Mom, I'll not be doing justice. I'll not be truthful to myself. Uh, and they never pressurized me at all, Raga. They didn't even pressurize me to go to a doctor or something like that. We did visit a counselor. However, the counselor counseled my parents instead of counseling me. Fortunately, he was one of the very good counselors in Chandigarh. And when we came back, or actually when they were leaving, her only concern was, who's going to take care of you when we are gone? Uh, she didn't say find someone, but she said, who's going to take care of you when we are gone? That's my only worry. Your brothers are settled. They have families of their own. And that's my only worry. We hugged each other. They left. And then I think immediately in a month or two, Monish and I met. And I got them introduced after about a year. But yeah, that's how it was.
It's such a heartwarming story, Rajiv. I was just waiting, thinking, okay, there's going to be a twist somewhere. But the twist to me is the fact that they accepted you, acknowledged you, and they just loved you for who you were. And audience watching, this is what it coming out should be, and but also it should not be. There should be no
I know.
Rajivs who have to have even 24 hours of questioning and self-doubt and worrying whether their parents will our parents will not
Yeah,
accept us and reject us. I think the
yeah.
biggest fear for us is rejection. I mean, I was rejected by my mother, as you know, and it is a
Mm-hmm.
it's, I think it's very painful for a child to be rejected. Imagine being rejected, one mango you want and they say no, don't have it, you hurt, you fall, you have a fall and you hurt
Uh,
your knees, and your mother is not there to look after you, you hurt. But
yeah,
imagine when
yeah,
you want something, this is life changing for you, and this is what it is, and your parents don't accept you, your mother in particular. It's very painful. So I'm so pleased that your story has been so painful, but smooth as well. So in
yeah.
that journey, after you met, was Monish. Now I want to talk about your partner Monish, who I think is absolutely wonderful because he has you as a partner. So, Rajiv, was when you met Monish, was he out? Was he open?
He he has a very different perspective to sexuality, Raga. He's elder to me, so you can very well imagine, a generation maybe prior to me. So he believes, don't ask, don't say, don't ask. So he shared with his mother that I don't want to get married. He would get his boyfriends home, uh, but he hadn't clearly shared ever till date. He hasn't told her that I'm gay. I tell her we're gay, and he believes that it's fine. I think he comes from a Bengali community, and I don't want to stereotype, but I feel that they are far more acceptance. They have a far more acceptance levels of sexuality, of physical, of relationships in general. And I think my now mother-in-law, she's accepted us like wholeheartedly. She was the first person that I met from his family, and actually, let me just tell you how we met. We met through a common friend, Raga, and we kept on talking over the phone for about a week, 10 days, and then I drove down from Chandigarh to Delhi to meet up with him. My partner's a chef. He used to work with India International Center. And we went out in the evening. We were supposed to go out on a date, a lunch, or actually a dinner. And he said, okay, before we go out for dinner, can I take you to a temple? Imagine when you've experienced people who say, can we go to the bed straight away? Here is a person who's wanting to take you to a temple. And I'm like, yeah, sure, we can go to a temple. That sounds better. And we went to a temple. And while we were praying, my eyes was closed. His eyes were, I'm sure, were closed too. He actually slid a ring across my ring finger. And I was deeply, deeply touched.
Oh my God.
I was deeply touched, and he said, "I don't. I am." He said, "I'm tired of looking around. You are one perfect person that I feel can bring about change, and can bring in stability in my life. Uh, you don't need to accept this ring, this ring right now. You also don't need to give it back to me right now. Take your time, but I'm there for you."
You've had a fairy tale life. I'm sorry. I want your life.
Yes, I do. There is a lot, there is a lot of gratitude when I hear other stories. I definitely feel for them, because I know it's been hard on them. But yes, I truly acknowledge the fact that I've had a real fairy tale life. So that's how we met, Raga. And then just in a few months, he gave up his job at India International Center and relocated to Chandigarh and said, "Hey, here I am." Overnight, you wouldn't believe. Next day morning, I find a person with a bag full of clothes and saying, "Hey, here's what I'm going to stay with you." And there was this fear. There was this, I was staying in a rented accommodation. There was this fear. Oh, what will I tell to the landlady? And you wouldn't believe, we had the same maid who would go to my landlady's house and our house, and I had to, lock him up in a store for one when she came home for cleaning. And next day morning, I realized, oh, I mean, sorry for my pardon, my French. What the fuck? We're paying for rent for it. Why should you be locked in the house? You should be living with me. And then we never told my landlady, but she understood. And we've never faced any bit of either taunts or saying, we cannot rent this accommodation to you and so on and so forth. But that's how we started living together. And ever since, it's been, every year we celebrate our companionship. Both of us don't remember the date. I know it was somewhere around Holi, so that weekend after Holi is when we celebrate our companionship. And this year we celebrated our 16 years of being together.
Wow. How beautiful is this story? I love actually Monish's story. And it's because, it's so mainstream for him to say that I don't need to come out, right? I don't need to talk about my sexuality.
Yeah,
That is how it should be, Rajiv. That's an ideal
exactly.
world. Why do we have to have
Exactly.
these conversations? Really,
Yeah,
how was it to come out, and what challenges did you face? Because why should it be like this? And this is,
exactly.
and therefore I would love to meet Monish someday, and I'd love to sit and have a conversation with him and touch his feet and say, "This is life. This is how it should be for all of us." But this is this journey. Now you have accepted yourself. You found your partner. I'm sure at that time you didn't know it was long term, but now 16 years
No,
is a beautiful time. You've come out to your parents. What about the work environment? Were you at all these points you were working also, right? So were you out at work? Did they?
no.
Okay, yeah. So did you face any such,
Mm,
homophobia?
No, I didn't face homophobia, but it was just this fear that kept on, kept on holding me back. But work's been a very good, a joyride as well. I never came out for the first few years at work at all. I was also, I was also trying to be successful in my roles that I was playing. So for the first 5 years, I never came out. When I joined a company, it was a US collections company. It was a listed company, so I went through the policies. And when you're in HR, you get to know what are the policies, and so there was this harassment policy which clearly spelled out homosexuality. There was conduct at workplace and all of that. But these were American policies that were brought to India as well. I did have my moments of weakness when I say, when my boss would say, "Hey, why don't you get your girlfriend along to the party?" And I would say, "Well, she's not here," and things like that. I had to make up excuses, because I somehow didn't know whether my boss is homophobic, not homophobic. But at one point in time, there came a time when I felt that, why am I hiding? What am I hiding? Because for this, I'm not bringing my most authentic self to work. There is a little bit of me that I have to check out every day at the office parking and then come inside. And then when I go back, I have to wear that myself and then go back home. So I told him one day that, hey, this is what my reality is. You know, I was heading HR for this particular company, and he accepted it. He was pretty comfortable with it. But my biggest acceptance, Raga, came when we had a global CEO who was visiting India. we had become a great place to work. We were recognized by the Great Place to Work Institute, and he threw a spouse dinner. He threw a spouse dinner. By then, I don't think he was aware about my sexuality. And then my manager went ahead and told him that, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to change this name. It shouldn't be called spouse dinner. And he was also giving him hints because he wasn't sure if my our global CEO is as open. And he said, where are you hinting? What are you telling me? I think they got into a deeper conversation. They exchanged information about myself, and I saw my global CEO walk him into my office, and said, "Hey, Rajiv, we want you to get Monish along." And he
Okay.
just said that, and it was changed overnight. It was changed from spouse dinner to partner dinner. And the entire evening, when Monish and I walked in for that dinner, it was at Trident, Gurgaon. I could only see, my colleagues trying to make both of us feel comfortable, make Monish comfortable. Our global CEO, just shared the same table with us, kept on having discussions with him. They were also bonding on food and, archaeology. And Monish's father was in Department of Archaeology and was based at Taj Mahal. And you know how Americans have this big
Fascination.
conditioning, yeah, fascination for Taj Mahal. So yeah, so ever after that, I have never hidden my sexuality at workplace at all. At my current organization as well, I came out. Earlier I would come out when I had joined the company, but this time I came out even at the time of my interview. And I'm blessed that my boss didn't even bat an eyelid, and he was like, "Oh, wonderful, great. So, how are things between the two of you? How's everything else?" And it just felt natural. It just felt so. It didn't feel as if I'm trying to be someone else at work. Uh, we openly discuss. My team members or my colleagues openly ask me about Monish. How is he? We haven't had, ever since we've joined. Within a few months, we've been in COVID, and we've been working from home. But I'm sure when there is a time, we will meet together with families, and this will only grow and prosper. We've made some very good changes in our policies, practices. The first and foremost change that we brought about is, our policies are gender neutral. We don't use the word he and she. We use the word they. We Our maternity benefits are eligible for anybody who identifies themselves as mother of the child. We also extend marriage benefits to same-sex partners, and insurance and life benefits to same-sex partners as well. So yeah,
How amazing. We need more Rajivs in this world, right? In the corporate space. No, we really do. It's really heartening to see the changes that are happening in India. And I know it is, the conversation is happening a lot. It's the momentum is also gaining, right, in India,
yes,
thanks to,
yes,
I mean, I receive hundreds of calls every week just on conversations from the corporate space. I believe that you and Monish bought a property together, and I know anyone
yeah,
can buy
we,
properties, right, if they have money. But the reason I
yeah,
wanted to talk to you about it because we have a unique problem in India for the LGBTQ community, right? I couldn't buy a
yeah,
property in India with Nicola. I don't know about your experience because the bank wouldn't give us a mortgage. They wouldn't
yeah,
they wouldn't acknowledge us as a couple. They said you can be two friends, Nicola, and they even give me an idea of saying call her Mr. Nicola, and later on we'll say there was a mistake in this in the title. So how was your experience?
yeah. It was hard. It was difficult. This is not a first property. We bought a house in Pondicherry. We've bought another house in Noida. But this time, I had the resolve to make sure that we're buying it together. Even now, the property is still in my name, but he's the primary guarantor for the property, if you will. They wanted to basically make sure that you know they wanted somebody to be a guarantor for the property, for the house loan, and they wanted somebody from the family. And I was like, well, my brothers are not Indian citizens. My parents are no more. So I would rather have Monish. And my banker checked with me, is this a long-term relationship? I hope you don't, if something happens to you, what happens to the property? I said, well, I'll write my will and this property will go to him. Yes, the laws are archaic, Raga. It's a long way to go, but this was a very humble beginning. The humble beginning was when we sat down together for the Greh Pravesh Puja, and when the priest said, "Do it together." I
Mm.
think that was the biggest acceptance. That
Uh,
was the biggest acceptance.
so the priest himself said to do the puja
Yeah,
together.
yeah. He said, "Why not?"
Mm.
And that's what you've been longing for your entire life.
Mm. God, you made me all teary. I wish this for all of
Sorry.
us. I can understand and appreciate your emotion because I think the day Nikhil and I are able to buy a property in India in our names together, I think a part of me will settle. That soul, which is not at peace, will settle because that means it's an absolute acknowledgement of our love and our relationship, right? And our commitment to each other. And it's sad that we have to wait for the financial institutions in India to decide that for us.
Yeah,
But change only happens slowly, I guess. But
yeah,
I'm so
yeah,
so pleased. You really made me teary. It's a
yeah.
beautiful thing.
Sorry, but
No, but thank you. This is what we talk about: real stories, real people, real lived experiences. And audience watching, please understand, we are real people with with real emotions. We are
exactly,
not like any. I mean, how am I different? How are you different, Rajiv? We love, we
exactly,
want the same space in everybody's life, and we're not committing any crime. We just love. Love
absolutely.
should be celebrated.
And how can love be? I don't know if you read the recent ruling that the Tamil Nadu government gave. He said he bought the responsibility. The judge bought the responsibility on his own self. He said we need to understand it. They don't need to fit it. He took the responsibility on him. He said it's loving and sharing and caring. And how is that ever becoming illegal? How is
Exactly.
that becoming illegal? It can happen between two people. I may not understand it today, but that doesn't mean it cannot happen.
He's got the heart, I think, from all of us,
Yeah,
right? Justice Anand
yeah,
Venkatesh. What a
yeah,
fantastic, and I keep talking about it on my shows, saying that how amazing it is that a person, I mean, you look at him, if you have to
yeah,
look at somebody and how we pass a judgment, right? People will look at me and
yeah,
have a certain judgment. They've looked at you, called you names for being effeminate, and look at him, I would say conservative, traditional man, what will he understand? But
yeah,
to me, he is conservative, he is traditional, but he has one point of difference. He was
yeah,
willing to educate himself.
yeah, absolutely. And he said ignorance is not a bliss. He said the responsibility lies in within me to
Yeah,
make myself more aware. And he
yeah,
did everything. He spent time with the community. He spent time with people working in this particular space to get educated, and that's how it should be.
exactly. And no, and what is even beyond that, Rajiv, that he actually passed a ruling saying that
Yeah,
these are things that need to change.
change.
Making it safer. Simple things like harassment. You have a problem, you go to the cops, you get harassed. The community
Yeah,
gets harassed. I mean, as simple as that. You should be able to feel safe in your home, at your workplace, in your school, in general, in society. And
exactly.
and that's why we need laws. That's why we need more stories, Rajiv, like yours, like mine, like so many others from our community, so that we can keep changing the narrative one story at a time. I've had a
Absolutely.
beautiful, beautiful discussion with you. I'm so pleased that we could have this time with you. Is there anything that you want to share before we end this conversation?
Yeah, sure. The two things that I like to share, I know you said we need more Rajivs like you, but we also need more people who've supported me in this journey. It'll be unfair of me to take the entire credit for myself. I, I had the courage because there were people who were behind me, who held me, who nurtured me. So it's thanks to all my previous and my current bosses, my peers, my colleagues, my friends who stood by me. That's one thing. The other thing that I'd like to share, and I have been thinking about this, what next for us? I'd like to parent a child. I know, I think a lot of it begins with good parenting, and I think both Manish and I can be good parents, but our laws really suck. COVID has made so many children orphan, and I'm sure there are others like me who would want to give good, upbringing to children, but our laws and really are prohibitive. They don't allow us to be a good parent. And for me, that will be a day of change when, a same-sex couple would be able to adopt a child in India and pass on good parenting and a good future to a child.
I so agree with you, and I hope that day arrives soon. And it is, I think, harder for men, to be seen as parents. Internationally, it's now quite common and normal.
Yeah,
Uh, I need to tell the audience that Nicola and I, my partner and I, have been together for 14 and a half years now. And we have brought up my children from my first marriage, who are now our children. And the kids were very little when Nicola came into our life. They're now 23 years old, very sorted,
wonderful.
as functional and as dysfunctional as any
Of
other
course.
adult. So being gay parents doesn't give them extra powers, or being with heterosexual couple parents doesn't give you any special powers either. So a child just grows beautifully with love. And I can tell you, in our community, we are full of love, and we have fought many
Yeah,
battles to come here. So we
yeah,
understand love, we understand how to give love, and we understand how to receive love. So, Rajiv, I hope that we can connect you. If you are not already connected with Prince Manvendra Goyal, they are fighting this fight as well, and he's been talking to the
wonderful.
government for adoption rights for same gender couples. So let's take this forward: marriage rights, anti-discriminatory laws, and adoption rights. I think these are the
Absolutely.
basic human rights for beautiful people like us,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Rajiv. What a
Thank you so
beautiful
much.
conversation. Thank you for sharing so openly, for bringing your entire self here on the show.
Pleasure's all mine, Raga, and thank you so much for being a wonderful host.
Thank you. And Nicola, thank you for your support in the back end. And I know you helped curate this beautifully. And audience, do write into us at theviewsroom@gmail.com. All these stories are available on YouTube. Please subscribe to Raga Olga De Silva on YouTube. Please share. We need to share these narratives with anyone and everyone, especially with those who do not understand the LGBT and what we are about. Thank you very much. And I'm signing out. Sorry, there's a gift partner we have. There's a gift partner who has come on board with organic stuff called the Herbal Theory. And Herbal Theory, thank you very much. And Rajiv, you will be receiving your little hamper soon. I hope you enjoy it. Signing out at Totally Out Now. Remember, closets are for clothes, not for hiding your truth. So you're watching Today with Totally Out Now, presented by the Newsroom. Thank you again, audience, and
Thank
Rajiv.
you.
Much love to you
Pleasure.
and Monish. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.